Well, here we are. The Oscars are coming up pretty soon, and I will probably be watching. The probably is in there because they've made some pretty controversial decisions as of late, and a part of me is tempted to just boycott the whole show just so they'll learn. But I probably will watch because I'm a sucker for the Oscars anyway. But if they really, really screw things up, then I may not watch next year. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about is predicting the Oscars, and we still have a couple more precursors to go. But the way I see it, if I do one video a day, I should get to the point where I do one video for every category, and leading up to the Oscars. And so I wanted to start with the category that is the easiest to call this early in advance, even though we still have some precursors to go. So there's a couple of categories where I want to wait and see what the precursors do before I vote. But I'm starting with best visual effects because I'm pretty sure there's only one way this can go. But I have been proven wrong in the past. Last year I started with best cinematography because I thought, oh, of course Nomadland wins that. There's no way anything else wins, and it ended up being Mank. So I could get proven wrong, but I don't think I'm going to waver from this particular prediction. Best visual effects, and it's interesting to look at this category this year because last year a lot of the bigger blockbusters were pushed, and this year we have them all. So last year we kind of had to reach for some of the nominees, but this year I think all the nominees are big tentpole blockbusters, and they're all very worthy of being here. So yeah. Fifth most likely to win is Free Guy. So this movie is in an interesting position because it's a movie that a lot of people weren't predicting to get the nomination, and I had it in my predictions for a while and then took it out. But at any rate, I'm grateful that it's here because it definitely deserves to be. I really like the way visual effects were utilized in this film. I like the way they were able to take live action photography of live action sets and make it feel like a virtual world directly out of a video game. And a lot of that is due to the production design, which is really great. But they really did put a lot of effort into making this feel like a virtual world. And at certain moments when there has to be massive destruction, that's done very well. And near the end of the film, they have to deep fake Ryan Reynolds' face onto a big bodyguard, and they get a free pass because it's not supposed to look entirely natural, but it is still kind of an advancement, something that we haven't really seen done in a major way in a Hollywood motion picture. With that said, I think it's probably not going to win, mainly because the film itself, I don't know how accessible it's going to be for older Academy voters. I really liked the film, but it's one of those situations where if you don't know a lot about video games, you're probably going to be alienated by this film. You won't get a lot of the references in it. And so, for that reason, I don't know how well the film is going to do overall. Very good effects that definitely deserves to be here, but yeah, I just don't see it actually pulling off a win. This is the film's only nomination, and I don't have much more to say about that. Deserved nomination, but I think when you look at what's in front of it in this category, I can't imagine it actually pulling off a win. Fourth most likely to win is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. And interestingly, 4 MCU movies made the shortlist, and 2 of them got nominated, and we'll be talking about the other one later. But the visual effects in this film, from what I've seen, look pretty incredible and are very well utilized. But I think the thing with Marvel is there is sort of a sameness to them when you watch a lot of their films in a row. Plus, a lot of people did complain about the visual effects in the climax, with some people saying that it ruined the film for them. And for me, the thing you have to remember with Marvel is that no MCU film has ever won the visual effects Oscar. I want to specify MCU because Spider-Man 2 won back in 2004. But when it comes to the MCU, they get nominated in this category all the time, but none of them have actually won. And I think a lot of them is because people recognize that these are very, very good effects, but I think for a lot of older Academy voters, there's a sense of if you've seen one Marvel movie, you've seen them all, and oh, they're not what really different. They're not really doing anything different in this film. And I'm sure you can point to a lot of individual moments in the film that are done differently, and particularly the way this one deals with stunt work. But I think while people like the film enough to nominate it, I do get the sense that people are kind of marveled out because we got 4 movies and 5 TV shows within the span of 12 months. It's kind of a lot, and I don't know how many people are specifically focusing on this film. Considering the other Marvel movie that's in the conversation, I feel like if you're a Marvel fan, you're going to vote there and not for Shang-Chi. Very good work, very deserving work in this film, but I can't imagine this film being the first MCU movie to win the Oscar. Third most likely to win is No Time to Die. Now, this is interesting because of the 4 films, the visual effects in this movie are the most subtle. Like the other 4 movies, the visual effects really pop out and you see, oh wow, that's big, that's impressive. Here, though, when I saw the film, I couldn't be entirely sure what was real and what was CG. I just bought everything, which you'd think would not benefit the movie in this category, but if you look at the most recent winners, movies like Tenet, 1917, Ex Machina, First Man, sometimes they do like to award the more subtle stuff. And the problem is I don't know how open they've been with the amount of visual effects in the film. It all seems like pretty generic background replacement, and with a couple of exceptions, with some of the more dangerous stunts. The fact that it looks so real, though, could hurt it. Again, it's not just visual effects artists that vote for this category, it's the whole Academy. But the fact that the movie is really well liked, it was nominated for 3 Oscars, not just visual effects, but also song and best sound. So clearly Oscar voters have seen the film and like it. But I just don't think the effects are flashy enough. I think while the film is very well done in many regards, it's just not the sort of thing they tend to award. And I could be wrong. Sometimes they surprise you and go for the low-key stuff that doesn't look like impressive visual effects. But I just feel like the average Academy voter would watch this film and go, what visual effects? And at least with 1917, I think they were a little bit more vocally out there in those effects. Plus, 1917 was a Best Picture nominee, which certainly helped. And No Time to Die is not. So, while I think the VFX work in this film is certainly impressive and, again, deserving of the nomination, I just don't see it pulling off a win here. Second most likely to win is Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, so as I said earlier, I think the number 1 in this category is locked, but if there is an upset, it's gotta be Spider-Man. And not necessarily because of the quality of the effects themselves. I've heard a lot of people actually don't care that much about the effects, or like, it's fine, but it's generic Marvel stuff. I've even heard some say that Shang-Chi has more impressive effects of the Marvel films this year. However, we can't ignore the fact that Spider-Man is a giant, giant film, and it made so much money. Even if it's not a Best Picture nominee, it really did capture the cultural zeitgeist, and there was a lot of backlash when it didn't get a Best Picture nominee, even though that was never going to happen. Now, we've heard about the crazy things that the producers are doing to try and get more people invested in the show. If the producers were voting on the Oscars, they'd be like, oh, give Spider-Man the win so that Spider-Man can win an Oscar on the night. And we can be like, hey, we're relevant, we're hip, we gave Spider-Man an Oscar. But they already created the fan favorite category for that. And again, producers do not vote on the Oscars, voters vote. And producers don't get to decide what gets nominated. Now, I can't see a world where the producers are bribing voters to vote for Spider-Man in this category, just because they want that moment, because the producers are nothing if not desperate. But I do think... The thing is, I don't know how many people have really raved over the effects in Spider-Man. I think, especially when you compare it to the number one in this category, I feel like the effects in Spider-Man are well-liked, but generic for Marvel. And so I can't imagine actually pulling off the win in this category. Again, like I said earlier, Marvel films have... No MCU film has ever won an Oscar in visual effects. And sorry, because MCU films have won... Black Panther, which was nominated for Best Picture and won production design, score, costume design, it didn't even get nominated for visual effects. Even the movie that they loved the most couldn't stand a chance in visual effects. And that, I think, means the effects in these movies are not universally beloved as much as fans might like to think they are. So, plus, even if you are an avid fan of Spider-Man No Way Home, if you watch that movie and then you watch number one most likely to win, Dune, then you'd probably have to admit that Dune has the better effects. I'm sorry, that's just what the situation is. So I couldn't actually find a good behind-the-scenes photo of the film with green screen and all that like it could for the others, but from everything I've heard, they really did go out of their way to sort of invent new technologies and blend it with practical effects, which I think really helps in this category. But what helps... Okay, it's really two things. The reason it's going to win the Oscar are for two reasons. One, the movie is a Best Picture nominee, and it's nominated for a lot of Oscars, 10 Oscars, picture, screenplay, and every eligible tech category, but somehow it missed director. I still don't understand that. But also the effects are just really, really impressive. Like, they feel real, they feel big, they feel epic, but they also feel... There's natural imperfections there that make you not question it. It doesn't feel like CGI, and the scope of it is just so big. And granted, even if we're early in the precursor section, once people saw Dune, once the movie premiered in October, there was no question that it was going to win Best Visual Effects, even though some of the other movies hadn't been seen yet. The only question was what movies are going to lose to Dune. There was a lot of talk about what was going to be the other nominees. Nothing felt like a safe number two, because Dune was so far ahead of it. And frankly, I don't even see the need to continue talking about it, because what's the point? We all know that Dune is winning, and the only way it could possibly lose is if the Oscar producers are just so desperate for Spider-Man to win that they bribe the voters, which is not impossible, but I just want to believe that they're not that desperate. The effects in Dune speak for themselves. I think we have an easy open and shut winner here, though again, I have been wrong before. So, thank you very much for watching this video, and tune in tomorrow where I will be taking a look at the category of Best International Feature. Stay tuned.